Hi everyone, my name is Emily Potter and I'm the host of the Living the Dream Video Summit. I'm also the director of the Million Kisses Foundation and a musician living solely within a gift economy model. So I have a question that I have been burning to ask lots and lots of people because I have a passion for everyone living their dream, the one that they came to earth to do. So I want to ask people, I've gathered people together for this summit to ask them the one question: how are they living the dream? I want to ask that so that they can help us eliminate our barriers, eliminate our scarcity mindset, our insecurities, our doubts, our fears, so that we can actually live this beautiful gift that we came here to live. So today we go to Northern California, and I have the opportunity to introduce you to Nancy Monson. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you, Emily. I'm happy to be here.
I am pleased to have you. I want to tell the audience a little bit about you. You are the founder of Everyday Spirituality. This is my favorite part. You are a soul purpose advocate. We have so much in common just from that by itself. I'm going to say it again. You are a soul purpose advocate. I hope that gets people curious because we're going to talk about that. A certified human design practitioner, which is also very intriguing, Nancy. And then also you are a co-author of several different books that I'd like to have people know about. So I want to actually get personal right at the beginning and ask you, how did you find your passion? Tell us, you are here, you found what your passion is. How did you find it? Tell us a little bit about the beginning stages of who you are today.
Wow. Oh, that's a great question, Emily. It goes back a long way. I remember telling this story. It's actually one of the stories in one of my books that you mentioned. And it's what happened is when I graduated from college with my undergraduate degree way back in the dark ages, I thought, what's next? There's got to be something more. And I asked this question to God. I didn't know what else to call it at that time. What is unconditional love? And that launched me on a lifelong quest, sometimes without my conscious involvement, right? I was sort of, plummeted towards the answer to that question. And it brought me to understanding that unconditional love begins with me. It begins with me accepting all of who I am. As you said, the brilliant gift that we're here to give, that no one else can give. I'm the only one who can give the gift of me ever in the entire universe. And it took me a long time. That was about 30 years ago. And it launched me on a long, long quest of personal growth, spiritual development. It's what got me all of the credentials that I have now and helped me to understand that's what I'm here to do, is to help others. That's why I call myself a soul purpose advocate. I'm here to help others live their soul's purpose, which is why I got so excited with your project here.
So let me ask you, do you actually work with people who don't know what their purpose is? At the very beginning, people are, and the reason why I ask is because, I'm getting chills everywhere. This is so my passion. I love talking to you already. We are robotic in this day and age. Civilization, we have to pay the bills. I honor having to pay the bills. We have to make it ends meet. We have to do these things, and it's this way. And so I can only imagine, as a soul purpose advocate, that you have people come to you because that's not living their engaged dream. So tell us, walk us through even just a tiny bit. If someone came to you right now and said, I don't even know what my purpose is, I'm not connected to my heart, I've just been going through the school system, the systematic institutions, and I now deserve to know who I am and what I'm doing and what I'm here for. Tell us at the very beginning, what would you say to begin?
Well, there's a couple of things. I'm a trained spiritual guide, and what I've learned in my spiritual guidance is that our soul has an arc. It has a purpose. We're born the divine child. We get wounded. The soul goes underground, right? The divine child hides for protection. And later in life, when the ego is developed enough to go through the deconstruction, to be recreated in a more magnificent version of who the soul truly is, that's when we're called to awaken to our soul's purpose. And that happens at all different phases of life, but actually after the soul, the ego has had enough experience that it can go through this transformation, which is cathartic. And so I explain what's happening, because usually when people come to me looking for their purpose, they're in the throes of the transition already. They've had things fall away. They've had loss of excitement and enthusiasm in their work. Maybe they've been on the wrong side of a political move at work and they're now cast out. They've had maybe health issues. Something happens that their soul is asking them to wake up. That's when they start asking the question, is this all there is? There's got to be more. I want to have a life with meaning, but I don't know what that is and I don't know how to find it. And that's what I've been trained to do. And I use my spiritual guidance training, as well as, you mentioned it earlier, human design, which is a miraculous system to reveal our soul's purpose.
You know, I'm so curious about focusing on one particular phrase about this. This is something we all have in common. So I really love this. In your bio, you talked about you've been doing this for over 20 years, that you have helped hundreds of people through the transition, navigating the transition. So I'm intrigued by that, because we all know that transition. and
oh yeah,
tell us, what could possibly make the transition even a little bit more comfortable? I mean, is that even possible? I mean, you probably can't answer that question because you did not make up the rules of life, Nancy, but what would you say to someone like myself who is going through that transition, knowing that it has to happen, the ego has to have its say, and then we get to live into that? Tell us about how we can make it even more doable and invigorating, instead of absolutely hopeless and despairing. How's that for a question?
It's true. And I think the thing that's the most comforting is there is recognizable phases that we go through. And this comes out of Carl Jung's work right towards the end of his life. And it's about the alchemy that the ego has to go through, that's guided by the soul. But we're not taught that. We don't understand it. Our society doesn't support it. And there are 4 major phases. So just explaining the 4 major phases helps people understand. And then there's techniques and practices and exercises that I give people to navigate consciously each of those phases. So they support their ego, it makes it gentler, and they learn how to tune into and trust, build a relationship with their soul's voice, which is unique to each person.
I just saw an image of myself going on a roller coaster, and it's like with the 4 stages, it's almost like I can at least see the roller coaster first, see when it dips down, goes up and down. And if I know at least that there's something known, it's not just this wild ride. Is that something like that, right?
Yes, absolutely. When we understand, like I worked with a woman, an executive woman, and she said, I just don't have any motivation anymore. I don't want to go out with my girlfriends on the weekends. I just want to stay in my house. And I keep having this reoccurring dream of losing my purse. And I says, well, what does your purse mean to you? She says, oh, it's my identity. It has my driver's license and my keys and my money. I said, exactly. That is your soul telling you that your identity is going through a metamorphosis. And when we go through a metamorphosis, just like the butterfly, we have to go into a cocoon. So her soul was telling her to go within, stay in her house. She didn't have the energy to go out with their friends. So when she understood that, she's like, oh, okay. It made it easier for her to understand. She didn't think she was losing her mind.
I feel like one of the powerful pieces of your message, if not the most powerful, is that it's called everyday spirituality. So it's not just a nice weekly connection. It's not just a, once or twice a week kind of thing. You're actually delving into with your clients. You're saying this is an everyday practice. And I'd love to ask you, what if someone was just listening to their heart for the first time? They're about to go. They're about to go live the dream, Nancy. They're about to, and they're looking for every tip and everything that can create that foundation for them to be successful in launching. So with what you offer with everyday spirituality, what is one resource, inner resource that you would give our audience in making that part of making spirituality an everyday part of their experience to live the dream?
Well, there's many things you can do, but one of the things that's most common that I recommend to my clients is to start, if they don't have it already, a regular journaling process. And there's a concept called morning pages, been around for a long time, and just to sit down in the morning and just write stream of consciousness. Don't lift your pen off the paper. Write whatever comes up, even if it makes no sense. I don't even know what to write. I'm just writing because I have to keep writing, and this is crazy. I don't even understand. And after a few minutes, you start to break through the ego's mind and messages will come forward. And there's a really valuable message or valuable result of having a journal. One of the things that it is super helpful for is you can track your progress. So, the soul knows the way, even when the ego doesn't. That's one of our famous sayings in our spiritual guidance community. And the soul has its own timing for these things, which has nothing to do with our regular everyday life or the ego's desire to get this done quickly. So the thing that's really helpful with the journal is we can go back and read what we wrote a few months before and see how we've been making progress. And it cultivates our relationship with this deeper part of ourselves.
Okay, I love that. I'm going to take a contrasting view. I'm going to imagine myself someone who struggles with depression, someone who struggles with hopelessness because of good reason. That's something that I love saying to my audience, is that it's not that we all came in with that vibrancy. Life is hard sometimes. So I'm taking what you have to offer with this everyday spirituality concept, and that works for someone for about good solid 3 months. I mean, that's working. And then they're feeling high. And then we all know that feeling. And so do I, that you can't get out of bed in the morning. You're absolutely connected to the hopelessness of life. You're watching the world. You're seeing that more dreams die than they live. And the people that you just can't see anything besides just that. So I want to ask you, in that same spirit of everyday spirituality, what would you say to that person that day and during that phase? What could be useful for them?
Oh, yeah. And, I've struggled with depression also. And it's a valid process. A great friend of mine who's also a brilliant woman, one of the founders of transpersonal psychology, Frances Bond, she said in one of the lectures that I was gifted enough to be able to attend, that we all go through dark nights of the soul, right? Expansion is preceded by a dark night, right? Contraction, expansion, contraction, expansion. That's the nature of the universe. So one of the key pieces when we're in those dark phases, when we're in those dark places, is to pick up, recognize it's a great opening that's going to happen. So get support. It's always good to have some type of a friend or a family member or a professional who can support you through that. But one of the ways that's really helpful is in those dark nights to pick up your creativity, pick up your pencil, pick up your crayons, pick up your instrument. Out of dark nights can come great innovations in creativity. Creativity, as you know, I'm sure, as a musician, so many beautiful songs, so many beautiful pieces of art have come out of those deep, dark nights. So we can use them as fuel for our own evolution and our own creativity, knowing that an expansion is coming.
I appreciate you saying that you struggle, or you have struggled in the past.
Mm-hmm.
with depression, because everything you said just now is absolutely the answer. It, at least for me, it's been the answer. And it's not useful to hear anyone say that unless they've been through it. Otherwise, you're just saying some really lovely, fabulous things in theory, and we couldn't care less, because when you're in those places, everyone, I know, seriously, what you just did is exactly what I do. I'm just rolling my eyes, like, I don't want to hear your freaking beautiful theories about how I should get out of bed. When I'm really upset and nothing works, and I've been working so hard and all my dreams are shattered. So I appreciate very much that vulnerability that you've been there, Nancy. And so I like that, because people who are listening right now, and I'm probably going to have to turn on the lights soon. I'll just take a minute after you, when you start talking again, to do that, because it's getting dark over here. I appreciate that, because what you just did was create the opening, and we can decide if we want to stay in bed and be depressed. That's okay. But if we decide that we don't want that story that day, then we can. They can rewind what you just said and listen to it again. What you just said is the way, is actually bringing creativity out of that space. And wow. So I really appreciate what you just shared, very much so. I read from your website. I want you to just tell us more about this. It's a small little thing, that just a tiny little part, using the soul's GPS to reveal to a person who are truly meant to be. Just talk. Tell us about our soul's GPS, Nancy, as I turn on the light.
Sure. So the soul's GPS is built into our DNA. The moment we're born, our soul imprints into our DNA, into our genes, the highest expression that we're here to experience in this lifetime. And in the late 80s, a system was received called Human Design that now is starting to proliferate around the world as one of the most accurate systems for revealing our soul's blueprint. And so what I do with my clients is I use their human design. We can get it based on the birth information, and it creates a beautiful picture of what their soul is intending for them to experience this lifetime. And that gives us a map, a GPS for helping each person live their highest potential. It shows everything that you want to know about how to live your best life.
I think people should contact you just to learn more about that. How's that for how I really feel? I'm imagining. So I want to get personal with your own story again, because that is where it's the most useful for people who are living the dream. We don't want theories. We want personal experience of people who are living the dream. And so that's why you are the radiant example right now. So there are, right now listening, there are other soul purpose advocates. I just know it. And they don't know how to make it into a profession. There's musicians like listening to me. They cannot quite figure out how I have done it monetarily. And I can't either. So by the way, but you and I are actually busting the system, because you're not a lawyer or a doctor, and you're not within the system. And in the same ways that we might have been trained, that's what success looks like. So tell the other soul purpose advocate. You can only do so many. You only have this many hours in the days to help people and assist people in finding their. So you are invested in helping people become the soul purpose advocates that they are. I'm invested in having more musicians out there, so that we can have that greater world peace of joy that we all want to live. Bring us back to the beginning, a little bit of your journey. How can someone listening right now dissipate the fear so that they can blast into their soul's GPS? How can they dissipate their fear? How did you dissipate your fear to be able to become the advocate that you are?
Wow. So that's a great question, because fear is a part of all of our lives. So what I know is when we go for our dreams, it brings up all of and in coaching training, we call them gremlins, right? The fears, because when we're little, when we step out there with all of who we are, sometimes parts of us are really reinforced and embraced. And sometimes parts of us are not so well received, and it gets scary. So that's when the persona happens. Okay, that part of me is okay. I can do that, but don't ever, ever, ever do this part. And I shove it into the background, and I cut off more and more parts of who I was born to be. And the fear comes to keep us safe. So recognizing that my fear is because of this gremlin that says, don't do that because remember what happened. Knowing I'm an adult now, and that is no longer a relevant fear. So it's about really embracing my fear, sitting with it, giving that little girl who was not well received a big hug, and recognizing it's okay now, right? Letting myself embrace the fear and hold it. And what happens when we put our attention on some part of ourselves, over a bit of time, it will start to relax.
Well, that just happened for me. I wanted to actually, I got a little bit emotional within just, I'm so passionate about what we're talking about. I'm imagining, and I'd like to have the audience feel encouraged to imagine that actually not just being something they listen to on a summit, Nancy, but to actually take that and go do it today. To take the moments while they're driving in the car, going to sleep, taking a shower, eating their meals, to embrace a little bit of fear and letting it be okay. Wouldn't that be amazing? That if that really is true, that would be one moment to go stepping into the dream, then everything feels softer, everything feels kinder, and the dream feels one step closer, and that's the whole point. I really appreciate that perspective. I want you to guide us to where you're an author. You've authored several books. Can you tell us where could people find the book, taking you into their life, embracing you a little bit more in that way?
Thank you, Emily. I'm a co-author in 2 books that are already published. There's a third one coming out in August, and they're all about this topic. The first one is called Come Out of Hiding and Shine. And it is the first of a series of books, a Shine books, and I'm one of the co-authors in that book. It went to international bestseller. It's got incredible, inspiring stories, and in that book, I talk about where I crashed with anxiety and depression from burnout in a corporate job. I was a corporate consultant and on the road, and it was not my passion, but I was committed to make it work and to be successful, and it just about killed me. And I was off work for 3 months recovering from that. So that's a story about how I went through my own dark night and found my purpose, which is helping others live their purpose. The second book is called Women of Courage, Women of Destiny. And in that book, we talk about how we overcame our fear and found our courage to live our destiny. In that book, I told my story of how I found courage on a big mountain. I used to be a mountaineer, and we were on our summit bid for Mount McKinley, the highest peak in North America. And we were very close to the summit when our leader became incapacitated with cerebral edema, which is swelling in the brain. It's a high altitude illness. And he couldn't function. And I was the one who stopped our team and convinced our team to turn around and go back down. And I was the only woman on that team. And probably, they say, saved our lives. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that's when I found my courage as a leader. And then the third book, which is coming out in August, is called Bloom Where You're Planted and Shine. And that's the second in the Bloom series, in the Shine series. And I talk about when my life completely fell apart and how I recreated myself and bloomed out of a rocky place.
Oh my goodness. I want to take you back to the times when you were writing that book and you were extremely vulnerable with the story and that you were scared of what people would think. I don't know if that actually was your experience, but I can only imagine that level of vulnerability, sharing about your dark night of the soul, that you didn't know how vulnerable to get and that you just went for it. And I want to thank you for doing it, because one thing I've learned is why not just tell the truth? We only have so many years on the planet. Why not just tell the truth?
Yes.
It's the most vulnerable, most powerful place to be. So I appreciate that space very much, that you can now have an international bestseller, so that we actually want to read that book because you told the truth.
Yeah, there's a lot of great truth stories in there, mine and many of my co-authors.
Fabulous. Thank you for referencing those so people can know. And we're going to put your information. Actually, tell us what your website is and where we can find these things.
Oh, everydayspirituality.com. And you can read more about my background and the kind of work that I do with my clients. As I said, there's also a media page, so you can see where I've also shared my wisdom in interviews and on radio. So there's lots of information. There's a couple of free gifts that people can get when they go on the website, and also, a way to contact me if they want to talk more.
So everydayspirituality.com. It's simple to remember that one. Tell us what your free gift is that you're giving to our audience today.
Well, it goes back to that human design system that I mentioned to you. And one of the things that people have asked me for, and I put this together as a report that helps you understand how to make good decisions for your life and for your business success. And it gives a high-level understanding of the key elements, the most powerful and simple and key elements of human design, so that people can get a sense of what their energy type is and how they need to make correct decisions in every situation, so that they will always have their best outcomes.
Okay, so when people sign up for your email list, they can get this free you're calling it a report, or
it's a report, yeah.
Great.
And embedded in the report, if they so desire, they can click on a link and sign up for a free 30-minute consultation with me, so that we can go deeper if they really are interested in learning more about their design.
So I want to emphasize that. I actually want to say it again, just in case people were washing the dishes and they missed that part. You are offering, if they want to come, to a free 30-minute consultation. Okay, so that's very useful. That's very personal. That's a beautiful thing to offer. I wanted to make sure everyone heard that, so that's one of the things that she's offering if you go to your website and go forward with that. So that's fantastic, Nancy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We are at the end of our beautiful interview. I've learned so much about you. I want to thank you from my heart for living the dream, that you have gone through the dark places and spaces, because you now understand that that's the way that you can be useful and helpful for our human family. And now you're doing that for other people. You found your purpose and you're living it. You quit your corporate job, Nancy. You did it. You did it. Wow. If everybody can just celebrate Nancy for a moment, because now she's living it. Look at that beautiful, radiant smile. She's totally doing it. So I want to support people like you so much. And I really appreciate what you're doing. I feel so emotional. Like, I just want to just hug you. But we'll meet someday. We have never met in person, but I'm so grateful we've met this way.
Yeah, and Emily, I want to just thank you for your enthusiasm, your passion, and your dedication to helping people live the dream. We need that so desperately right now, in this moment, on this planet. It's a critical time in humanity's evolution, and we need to be living our dream. Thank you so much for the work you're doing.
Thank you, Nancy. So have a wonderful afternoon, Nancy. And I want to just say goodbye to our audience and letting you know that I am living my passion. It was scary for me too, and I'm doing it because I can't not anymore. It got too painful to stay where I was. I have to go forward. And specifically, I'm taking a stand that money is not a reason to walk away from a dream. And so I'm using this whole thing. I'm doing this whole dream of mine within a gift economy, which means that I am not asking for any money for anything that I do. My concerts, these summits, and that I get to trust like I've never trusted anything before, that the universe gets to provide for me. So if you know that you are the hands and the heart of the universe and you'd like to give to me, I gratefully receive, because that is what I'm here to do, is to receive and to give in joy. So feel free to look at my website as well. It's down below, and you'll go to the Patreon, where you can actually become a patron, or you can give at anything that you feel that you'd like to give. So I appreciate that very much. Anyone who feels called, you are being called. Thank you. So Nancy, have a wonderful day. Thank you for being here. And I will definitely support people going to Nancy after this and going forward with the soul purpose.
Thank you so much, Emily. It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.